My name is Katie. I'm standing in my parents' living room, surrounded by relatives. My mother is sitting on the couch, her face red with anger, and she's screaming at me. That money was for this family. After everything I did for you, you ungrateful schemer. You'd humiliate me in my own home over money your grandfather would have wanted us to have. I look around at the faces in the room. Aunts and uncles are staring at me, some with disapproval, some with shock. But I'm not afraid. I've been through too much to be intimidated by their looks. I take a deep breath and look my mother in the eye. Grandpa knew you'd say that, Mom, I say calmly. He wrote it on a napkin when I was 18. I lay the pages from the envelope on the coffee table one by one. This is a bank statement for an account my grandfather, Henry Thompson, opened in my name when I was 18. Only my name. And these are the withdrawals and transfers out of it. Dozens of them, over years. Every one of them goes to an account belonging to you, Mom. My mother's face turns pale, and she tries to interrupt me, but I keep going. You told me at Grandpa's funeral that he left nothing, that there was no account, nothing to inherit. You said that so I'd never look. But I found out the truth, Mom. You've been stealing from me for years. The room goes silent, and everyone is looking at my mother now. She stands up, her hands shaking, and points at me. You can't do this. You can't do anything on your own. I stand up too and look her straight in the eye. I did all of this on my own, Mom. Including catching you. Let me take you back to how all of this started. I'm a 30-year-old emergency room nurse at the local hospital. 3 months before Christmas, I moved back to my hometown for this job. The apartment I wanted wouldn't be available until February, and my first few paychecks were still processing. So I asked my parents if I could stay in my old room for a couple of months to save on a deposit. My parents, Carl and Linda Thompson, have always had a strange dynamic. My father is a quiet man, conflict-shy to the point of cowardice. He spends most of his time in the den when there's any trouble. My mother, on the other hand, is controlling and manipulative. She has always favored my younger brother, Ethan, who is 26. Ethan has had a rough life. He was a premature baby, had a hard time in school, and has lost several jobs. My mother has always made excuses for him and doted on him. Whenever I'd offer to help with something, like groceries since I was eating their food, she'd pat my hand and say, "Don't worry about it. You can barely take care of yourself. You can't do anything on your own anyway." I'm the kind of person who plans. I handle crises without making them about me, which is part of my job as an ER nurse. I don't ask for help, I figure things out on my own. But I've learned that this strength has also made me an easy target. A few months before Christmas, I started noticing things that didn't add up. Ethan, who didn't have a steady job, suddenly had a new truck in the driveway. His old debts seemed to disappear, and he went on a vacation and put a deposit on an apartment with his fiancée, Lily. One evening, I asked my mother casually, "Where's Ethan getting the money for all this?" Her face twitched for a moment, and then she put on a calm mask and said, "That's family business, Katie. It's being handled." I let it go, but it bothered me. I even thought about looking at an old account my grandfather had left me, but I had no way to check my parents' finances, and I didn't want to start a fight over a feeling. In early December, my mother announced that Ethan and Lily were going to move in, and they needed my room. She said it like it was good news. "It just makes more sense, Katie. You're so independent. You'll land on your feet anywhere. Ethan and Lily really need the stability." I tried to be reasonable. I explained that the apartment wasn't ready until February, and I just needed a few more weeks. But my mother's face hardened. "Don't be dramatic," she said. "You'll figure it out. You always do." Christmas dinner was a nightmare. The table was full of relatives, and my mother spent the whole meal talking about Ethan's bright future, his engagement, and his new apartment. When the conversation turned to me, she said, Katie's still finding herself. We're letting her stay with us while she sorts things out. After dessert, my father disappeared into the den, and my mother followed me into the kitchen. We think it's best if you go tonight, she said. Christmas night. I was shocked. I asked if she was serious and if I could at least stay until morning to pack my things. She said, Ethan and Lily are coming in the morning. And honestly, Katie, the longer you drag this out, the harder you make it. You can't keep leaning on us. You need to learn to do things on your own. I went to get my bags, but she stopped me. She said they'd send my things later and that I should just go. So I left with my purse and my coat in my hand. As I stood on the porch, my mother said the words that would haunt me, you can't do anything on your own, Katie. You're desperate. Then she shut the door, and I heard the lock turn. I sat in my car in the driveway, the snow falling on the windshield. I was cold, and my hands were shaking, but I knew I had to do something. I rummaged through my wallet and found an old debit card. This card was from my grandfather, Henry Thompson. He died 5 years ago, but he gave me this card 12 years before that, on the day I graduated high school. He took me out for pie, just the two of us, and slid an envelope across the diner table. Inside was a debit card with my name on it, attached to an account he'd opened for me. He told me it was for my future, for school, for emergencies. Then he did something strange. He took a paper napkin, wrote on it, folded it into a little square, and tucked it behind the card in my wallet. Keep this with the card, he said. Don't read it now. Read it the day you need it. And he added, and Katie, don't tell your mother about this account. She'll spend it. I laughed at the time, thinking he was just being a grumpy old man. I tucked the napkin away and mostly forgot about it. That night, as I sat in my car, I held the card and thought, maybe there's enough for a motel. I found a cheap motel off the highway, paid cash for one night, and decided that in the morning, I'd go to the bank and check the balance. The next morning, I went to a small credit union on Main Street. I slid the old card across the counter to the teller and said, this is really old. It might be closed. I just want to check the balance. The teller swiped it, frowned, and swiped it again. Then she said, let me get my manager. The manager, a kind woman named Sarah Jenkins, came over and pulled up the account. Her face turned white as she scrolled through the transactions. Ma'am, she said softly, please sit down. You need to see this. I sat down, my heart pounding. I thought the account was empty, that my mother was right, and I was a failure. But what Sarah showed me on the screen was a long history of withdrawals and transfers, all going to an account belonging to my mother. I asked Sarah, these withdrawals, I didn't make any of them. Who authorized them? She explained that for years, the access had been tied to a power of attorney from my grandfather's affairs. But she also pointed out that the account was in my name, and the transactions after my grandfather's death were unauthorized. I finally understood. My mother, who had always called me desperate and helpless, had been stealing from me for years. I decided to take action. Sarah recommended that I print the full statement history, identify the unauthorized transactions, and file a fraud claim. I also knew I needed a lawyer. I found a lawyer named Mark Davis, an estate and elder law attorney in the next town. I brought him the statements and the napkin. He listened carefully and then laid out the case. The account was mine, solely. My grandfather's power of attorney had terminated the moment he died, and every transfer my mother made after that was unauthorized. Mark said, this isn't a family misunderstanding. This is conversion, possibly criminal. You have strong grounds to demand the funds back. I asked him if we could do this in a way that gave my family a chance to make it right before it became a criminal case. He nodded and said we could lead with a demand and a recovery plan. The credit union's fraud department started investigating, and my mother started to panic. She sent me texts, first threatening me to stop, and then trying to reason with me, saying it wasn't what it looked like. Ethan came to the hospital parking lot after my shift. He was angry and scared. "What are you doing to Mom?" he said. "She's freaking out." "You're trying to send her to jail over money?" I looked at him and said, "Ethan, do you know where the money for your truck came from? Your apartment deposit? The debts that disappeared?" He was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Mom said it was family money." I told him it was an account our grandfather put in my name, just mine. He left me a note telling me to keep it away from her because she'd spend it. And she spent it. On you. Ethan looked shocked. He said, "I didn't know." My mother then tried the guilt trip. She called me, her voice soft and wounded. "Katie, sweetheart. I think this has all gotten so out of hand. Are you really going to send your own mother to prison? Over money your grandfather basically meant for the whole family anyway?" I said evenly, "Grandpa didn't mean it for the family, Mom. He put it in my name and left me a note about you specifically. I don't want you in prison. I want my money back. Every dollar you took after he died." She switched from tears to ice. "After everything, you're choosing money over your family," she said. I replied, "No, Mom. You did that 5 years ago. I'm just the one who finally noticed." As the legal process moved forward, the credit union reversed some of the unauthorized transactions. Mark drafted a formal demand letter, laying out the full accounting and the amount my mother owed me. Then came the family dinner. My mother had invited all the relatives, hoping to pressure me into backing down. But I was ready. I brought a folder with copies of the key statements, the timeline, the legal summary, and a copy of the napkin. Now, as I stand in the living room, the truth is out. My mother's face is a mask of rage and humiliation. The relatives are looking at her in disbelief. I look around the room and say, "Here's what happens now. The bank is reversing what it can. My lawyer sent Mom a letter with the rest of what she owes me and a plan to pay it back. If she signs it and makes it right, I'm not asking for anyone to be arrested. I want what my grandfather left me, which was always mine." I pick up my pages and say, "I'm not going to be in this family's life the way I was. I won't be the strong one you lean on while you call me the weak one. That's over. If any of you want a real relationship with me, the door's open. But it's my door now, and it locks from my side, too." I walk out of the house, feeling a sense of relief and freedom. In the months that follow, my mother signs the repayment agreement. Most of my money comes back, labeled as recovered. I move into my apartment in February and furnish it with my own paychecks. My job at the hospital is still hard but rewarding. Ethan and I are slowly building a new relationship. He's trying to stand on his own 2 feet. My father and I talk sometimes, and his silence is his way of apologizing. My mother and I don't speak. I've stopped waiting for an apology because I know she'll never truly admit her wrongs. I keep the napkin in a frame on my kitchen wall. Every morning, as I have my coffee, I read the words my grandfather wrote, "For when you have to stand on your own. This is yours, Katie. Nobody else's. Protect yourself." I've learned that sometimes, standing on your own means finally checking the balance and not letting others take advantage of you.